Generators. They power most of our civilization, and it seems like everyone on YouTube is trying to build one, especially for things like DIY wind and hydro projects. Over time, I have also built a few. The previous two I built were based on my ModuCoil design, which is a design for a coil bobbin that can be 3D printed, assembled, wound, and finally mounted to the rest of the generator, enabling repairability, scalability, and the ability to disassemble generators made with ModuCoils at the end of their life, which is important for reuse and recyclability. Today, I am showcasing the version 3 of my ModuCoil generator, which has been completely redesigned versus older versions. In this episode, we're going to look at all the changes I made, why I made them, how to assemble this generator, and finally at the end, we'll get to doing some tests. Let's get right into the video. The V3 has undergone a complete overhaul over previous versions. There's lots of changes that have been made, and I'm now going to walk through them. First off, the V3 now uses a 3mm threaded rod as the shaft, with some printed nuts I designed that fasten onto the rod and slot into some 4mm bearings. In previous versions, I used a bulky combination of a 10mm solid steel shaft coupled to a 10mm bearing. This was massively oversized for my application and introduced a few problems. The first rather obvious issue was that I was constrained in how small I could make the generator in all, in terms of its form factor. The main issue though was the fact that there was very little flywheel effect due to how heavy the shaft was relative to the mass surrounding it in previous versions. This is bad for wind turbines and similar applications because you get the worst of both worlds. You get a rotor that is hard to start because of how heavy the shaft is, and you also get a rotor that stops easily because there is very little stopping inertia. Using a thinner shaft for the V3 means that it still takes a little bit of starting torque to get going. However, it also means that the rotor is able to build and maintain a lot more momentum because of the fact that there is more radial mass relative to the shaft, which amplifies the flywheel effect. The threaded rod is also a lot easier to fasten things to. Okay, next thing. This is a ModuCoil generator after all, and thus it uses ModuCoils. These are the version 4, and for this generator I've wound 6 of them, each with 220 windings of 0.4mm wire. Each of these coils has an internal resistance of around 3.2 to 3.5 ohms. These coils now mount radially to the new stator hub that I've designed. These hubs have slots that the ModuCoils can screw into, and are designed so that ModuCoils can be installed and removed with relative ease, as opposed to previous versions which had rather overcomplicated mounting methods. The rotor has also changed quite a bit. The goal with this rotor was to try and get the magnets as close to the coils as possible in order to achieve maximum induction. In spirit of this, I've ditched the previous design of having a two-part system in order to secure the magnets in place, as it created a significant gap between the magnet rotor and the coils. What I've instead decided to do is utilize the self-locking properties of holdback arrays in order to secure the magnets in place, using a simple one-part rotor. Later on you'll see how this wasn't quite enough, but you'll also see the solution I employed to fix this issue without resorting to adhesives. Speaking of the array itself, the total number of magnets has increased from 12 to a total of 16. That means an increase of 6 pole pairs from the previous generations to 8 pole pairs in this version. In order to fit that many magnets on a rotor this small, I had to use different magnets for the main poles and for redirecting the magnetic fields. The main part of the poles consist of 30mm by 10 by 5mm magnets, and the directional magnets are the same dimensions except thinner at 2mm as opposed to 5. This 8-pole pair configuration isn't standard to pair with 6 coils. However, the benefits of using more magnets are that it adds more mass to the rotor, which increases the flywheel effect, and also means higher frequency at lower RPM, which means steadier, more consistent power. The final big change with this generator is the phasing. This generator, unlike previous versions, is a true 3-phase setup. Previously, my solution was to place each coil adjacent to each other and daisy chain them up in series. And while this gave good voltages, the current output was abysmal. This generator uses a true Y setup with 2 coils per phase. These are all connected together with Vargo connectors, which I have designed holders for, which slot into the D-profile holes of each ModuCoil. A big problem with previous versions was cable management, and I think I've finally sorted that out. Okay, so if you've watched other videos on my 3D printing projects, you all know by now what time of the video it is. That's right, it's build montage time. And then afterwards, we'll get to some testing. So before I assembled the thing, I did a test of a single coil, which gave a maximum voltage of around 2 volts. For the initial test of the generator, I connected my multimeter line to line. That means from one phase to another. On spinning the rotor vigorously with my hand, I found that the generator produced appreciable voltages in the mid to high single digits. However, it suffered from a mechanical limitation that limited its ability to work at high RPM. The self-locking property of the Hallback array is pretty cool. However, it is quite limited in its capacity to hold the magnets together on the rotor. A solution I came up with, which I think is rather clever, is to wrap some plumber's tape around the rotor and then use one of the thinner magnets to trap the ends of the tape inside the slot the magnet goes into. This secures the tape in place and also provides tension that keeps the magnets secured to the rotor. After making this modification and reassembling the generator, I performed another test. This time, because I was able to spin the generator to high RPMs, I got a maximum line-to-line voltage of around 11 volts RMS, which when you consider that RMS isn't even the peak and that the line-to-line resistance was about 13 ohms, this means that phase to phase we're getting about 1 amp. And what this means is that this generator, under these conditions, is producing at least 10 watts, which I think is impressive for a generator this size, and that's not even using all 3 phases, that's just line to line, so it's just using 2 phases. I've yet to rectify this to DC and utilize all 3 phases and measure the output of that. Unfortunately, at present, I don't have a power supply or a power delivery system that can convert this AC into smooth and usable DC. However, that's going to be my next project. Additionally, spinning this thing with my hand is only so useful, so I'm going to be investigating and designing wind turbines and testing it out proper. So that's another thing to look forward to. For now though, that's all from me. I'm honestly quite happy that I've been able to design and build a functional and sturdy generator, and this will allow me to do a lot more energy science, especially with things like wind and hydro. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and share this video in order to support my channel and this type of content. If you like what you see, why not subscribe and tap on the bell. Leave your thoughts down in the comments. Take care, and I will catch you all again very soon.